Okay, for this chapter 8, transport in plants, last week we stopped until here, right? Okay, so the plant transport, the function of plant transport is actually they are doing what? They are actually help to transport the nutrients and also the water molecule from the external environments into the plant itself, because plants as it compared to humans, okay, later we'll learn about the human transport also. When the plant they compare to human, does plant contain blood vessel help to transport the nutrients? They don't have. Plant they do not have the blood vessel like in humans. Okay, in humans we do have the blood vessel, we have the artery, we have the vein help us to transport the nutrient and oxygens to our body cell. But plant they don't have. So how plant able to transport their nutrient molecule and the water is they will use their own transport system, which is comprised of the xylem and the phloem. So these xylem and phloems, when they group together, they are known as the vascular bundle. It's the vascular bundle. So you should able to visualize that where is the positions of xylem and phloem. For example, when you look at this leaf, this is a leaf, right? Leaf. So the position for the xylem will be on the top part. This will be the xylem. This. Then below the xylem will be the phloem. So this is the orientation in the leaf. But in their, in the stem and in their roots, the orientation is slightly different. So in the stem will be in this way. Okay. This is we call as the ring. Ring. So inside will be the xylem. Outside will be the phloem. So in the root cell, they will be oriented in this way. The middle part will be the xylem. Then followed by outer parts, which is the phloem. Like this. So the center point will be the xylem. During the exam, they will ask you this kind of orientations of the xylem and phloem. So xylem, as you know, is help in transport water and mineral ions from the roots to the stem and leaf. For the phloem vessel itself, they help to transport the food material, which is the sucrose and acids, from the leaf. Okay, leaf is the site which they have the photosynthesis, right? The photosynthesis occurs in the leaf because only the leaf they do contain the chloroplast. They contain the chloroplast. So inside the chloroplast, actually they do have the photosynthetic pigment we know as the chlorophyll. So chlorophyll is a kind of pigment, it's a greenish pigment found in the chloroplast. Chloroplast is the organelles, chlorophyll is the pigment, okay? Please differentiate these two structures. So only the green part of the leaf able to do the photosynthesis. So if we talk about the non-photosynthesizing regions, it will be the part of the plants which they do not contain any chloroplast and the chlorophyll. So they are unable to perform the photosynthesis. So during exam, they might be give you question like this. They will give you a leaf. So for this leaf, okay, they only have maybe certain part with the, green color. This is a leaf. So only this part and this part is green color. Then this part will be yellow color, right? Yellow color. So when you want to stain the starch solutions, okay, it's not starch solution, sorry, it's the iodine solution. When you want to do the iodine test, so what is the function of iodine? The iodine is they will test for the presence of the starch. So photosynthesis is a process which they will produce the glucose, right? Photosynthesis will produce the glucose. So after that, the glucose they will convert become the starch. So the glucose initially they are made in the leaf. So after that, the glucose they will be converted into sucrose when they enters into the phloem. They will convert become the sucrose. So then they will convert become starch. and they will store the starch inside we call as a sink. Sorry, sink. What is meant by sink? Sink is a place which the plants store their nutrients. Okay, so the leaf, they are known as the source. Source means the site which the plants able to produce their own food. Because photosynthesis is a process which help the plant to produce their own food. Let me close my WhatsApp. Sorry, it's a bit noisy. Okay. So remember that source is referred to the leaf. Sink is referred to the roots. Okay. So when the leaf parts, when we look at the leaf, so only the green regions, they do contain the chloroplast. So only this region, they have the chloroplast. So they able to do what? They're able to do the photosynthesis. They're able to do the photosynthesis. So this part, they do not contain the chloroplast. So they are unable to do the photosynthesis, this part, and this part. So whenever you want to put the iodine solutions on the leaf surface, so you put on the whole leaf stained with the iodine solution. So only the part which they contain the chloroplast, they will change their color. So the iodine test means that if there's a presence of starch, so they will change its color from the brown solutions. I mean, the brown color solution become the blue-black, right? I mean, yeah, the blue-black solution. So they will change color at here only, which is on the on the green regions, which they contain the starch. So for the water uptakes, so you must know how the plants able to absorb the water. So the plants absorb the water from where? From the soil solutions, from the soil water. So you can imagine that this is a plant, and this is the root system of the plants. So the roots of plant is actually immersed in the soil. So the soil contain what? The soil contain the soil water. So the soil water, they actually contains a very large proportion of the water molecule and some ions. They contain water molecule also and some ions. Ion is like the sodium ions, potassium ions. So the water, they need to diffuse from the soil, enters into the roots. Enter into roots. So the first place they will be enter is root hair cell. So this is a root hair cell. So root hair cell, I think you heard before in the chapter 1. So root hair cell is a specialized cell on the roots part of the plants. So the root hair cell, their special feature is they contain a very long extension. See, long extension. It's just like someone pointing a finger to you. See, very long extension. So the purpose of this long extension is they help them to increase the surface area for the water absorptions. So this root hair cell, they're able to absorb water. So when they absorb water, the water will go inside. The water will be absorbed by the osmosis, right? Osmosis. So secondly, they're able to get the mineral ion also. But however, the mineral ion will enter into the root hair cell by what method? And that's one, do you remember? How the mineral ion enter into root hair cell? By what kind of method? I give you 3 choice: diffusion, osmosis, or active transport. Yes, very good. Yeah, it's active transport. Definitely, it's active transport. So that's why the root hair cell, especially on their cell membrane, because root hair cell, they do contain cell membrane, right? They have this we call as the carrier proteins. So because you are using the active transport, this is a very common this is a very common topic to be asked in the exam, in the IGCSE exam. Is like they will ask you how the root hair cell able to get the mineral ion. So this is your answer. Means that root hair cell, they actively transport the mineral ions into the cell sac. The root hair cell inside we call as a cell sac. So from the soil water, they will enter into the cell sac of the root hair cell. So because it's active transport, right? So they require what? they require the help of the energy, right? They require the help of energy. Then secondly, they require about the carrier proteins, right? And yeah, and also please remember about this term against concentrated gradient. You should write this against the gradient. So this is the keyword that you should mention in your answer. Okay, so see, large surface of the root hair cell is very useful because you're able to increase the rate of the water and mineral ions. Yeah, and then now we talk about, so just now we already know that how the water is being diffused from the surrounding soil waters and enter into root hair cell, get into the cell sac. So now the water molecule are already found inside the root hair cell. So how the water will continue to go up and finally they will get into the leaf. So now we are doing the study of the whole process. So remember that the movement of water from the roots to stem until they will get into the leaf is by osmosis process, which is the passive transport. Doesn't require any use of ATP energy and also the carrier proteins. So you just only need to enable the water just pass into the root hair cell and enter into the root cortex and get into the xylem vessel. Because xylem vessel, they are discovered at which site? Xylem vessel are actually found in the roots part, right? Roots and the stem and the leaf. Those three parts of the plants, they do contain the xylem vessel. So you can imagine that this is the root hair cell. So how the water able to get from soil water enter into cell sac, and then they will enter into the root cortex. This root cortex cell is just adjacent to the root hair cell. It's just adjacent to the root hair cell, and then they will diffuse. Okay, diffuse by the osmosis process. Then they will get into the xylem vessel. So imagine that this is a xylem vessel. Xylem vessel is just looking like the straw. I mean the drinking straw. So why I say in this way? Because xylem vessel is a long tube. It's a long cylindrical tube, a long tube. Just a tube. And inside the xylem vessel is empty. So when the water, they will get into the xylem vessel. So what will they do is the water, they will form the attachment between each other. Okay, so they will allow the water to transport against the gravitational force. Means that the water, they will transport towards the outward directions. Okay, so once the water get into xylem, it's carried up, see, outward direction into leaf, and then they will enter into the mesophyll cell. So this is a path. I mean, this is a pathway. Then you should remember about the pathway from the root hair cell to the root cortex cell, enter into the xylem vessel, and from the xylem, from the roots parts of the xylem, enter into the stem part of the xylem, and get into the leaf part of the xylem. And finally, they will get into the mesophyll cell. So this mesophyll cell, they are actually referred to, for example, they are referring to the spongy mesophyll cell, the pellucid mesophyll cell that you learned before. Okay, I think that's all. Okay, so this is, they show you, I mean, they do experiment, study how the water able to diffuse upwards within the stem of the cell. So you can see that they place the plant cuttings into 3 different solutions with different colors. So at the end, they will found that only the xylem of the vascular tissue, they will show the dyes, which is a stain. This means that the water molecule is being transported within the xylem vessel only. Only the xylem vessel help in transport the water molecule, not other structure like the phloem. So they confirm that the water movement is found in xylem only. Okay, so this is the point. Then now we'll talk about transpirations. Okay, please remember that the xylem help to transport water and mineral ion, right? So actually this process, there's a term we call as the transpiration. So this transpiration is a process which involves in the water, they will travel up the xylem from the roots to the stem and then enter the leaf of the plants. So why they are doing this? Because they want to replace the water they are lost during the transpiration. Okay, transpiration, you should remember this term. I draw a star for you because you should memorize this term. Okay, it's the loss of the water vapors from the plant leaf by the evaporation. Not loss. I mean, the term is not loss of water, but it is a loss of the water vapor. Water vapor, water is different thing. So from the plant's leaf by the evaporations of the water at the surface of the mesophil cell, followed by the diffusion of the water vapor through the stomata. So what does it mean? So actually it's mean in this way. Okay, you can imagine that. Okay. You can imagine that. Once the water, they will travel up, right? From the root hair cell to the root cortex cell until they will enter into xylem vessel in the roots part, and then they'll go into stem part and get into leaf, right? See, get into leaf. So maybe we can talk about the xylem vessel first. Okay, because xylem vessel is very important structures help in the transpiration process. So xylem vessel, you should know about their two aspects. First is you should know about their adaptations. What is meant by adaptation? Adaptation is referred to the structures found in the xylem vessel. So the xylem is their special feature is they contain lignin. What is meant by lignin? Lignin is found in all wood. I mean, it's found in all woody plant. All woody plant they contain the lignin because lignin is very hard substance. Okay, it's very hard. So the lignin are actually deposits on the cell wall of the xylem. So they will cause the xylem vessel to die. This means that all cells, if they contain the lignin, they are actually a dead cell. So means lignin are found in the dead cell. Okay, so since the cell is already died, so it means that the cell, they don't have the cytoplasm inside because they already died. So inside is totally empty at all. So the cell will become hollow. Hollow because they lost all their organelle and cytoplasms. And they are joined end to end to form the continuous tube. Okay, see, this continuous tube means that their structure is without any cross wall. So if I want to draw a xylem structure, I can draw in this way. You can have a look how I draw a xylem vessel. So this is like this. This is xylem vessel. I draw a long hollow tube. Okay. Then they have a very thick wall. Very thick wall. And then this cell wall is thickened by lignin. Okay, so this is the lignin. Actually, there's a pattern in the lignin, but in IGCSE, you just need to know this is a lignin. Means that you just need to know that the xylem vessel cell wall, they do contain the lignin. So the first one is they contain a thickened cell wall. I mean, the cell wall is thickened by lignin. This one. Cell wall thickened by lignin. Okay, this is the first thing you should know. Then secondly, you can see this xylem. They do have, do they have the end wall? No, right? They don't have something like this. They don't have. They just continuous connect to each other together. Okay, they don't have the cross wall like the phylum. So no end wall. No end wall. So no end wall means that they can allow the water move very smooth, continuously without any resistance. So this is their benefit if they don't have the end wall. Then third, they are dead cell without cytoplasm. This is also beneficial for them because they can allow the water movements to flow continuously without any substance able to hinder their movements. And also, the xylem, they allow water movement in one direction only. Okay, so only take place in one direction means the water will always flow from root to leaf. They will always flow in the upward directions like this, okay, from the roots part to the leaf parts. Okay, so I think that's all. So you can have a look for this picture. See, they have a lignin strengthen the cell wall, and there's no end wall, and they can help them to form a continuous column of the water. So this is how your water able to diffuse from the root hair cell and get up through the xylem vessel, and then they will enter into the leaf. So all those processes happen by the osmosis. So once the water, they will get into the leaf structure. Initially, they will enter into the, we call it the mesophyll cell of the leaf. So the mesophyll cell of the leaf is the spongy mesophyll cell, the pellucid mesophyll cell, right? So will enter into the mesophyll cell leaf, and then they will get into where? They will get into the air space. The air space are found in the spongy mesophyll cell. So once the water get into the airspace, and then they will become in the water vapor form. So the water, they will diffuse out through the stomata and evaporate in form of the water vapor. So this is story. Okay, see, from the water, once they release out, it will be in form of the water vapor. Because this process happens is called as the evaporation. Evaporation means that the water are being converted into the water vapor in the gaseous state form, because water vapor is a gas. So you can see loss of water vapor from the plant leaf by the evaporations, and followed by diffusions of the water vapor through the stomata. So the water vapors, they are found inside within the airspace of the spongy mesophyll cell, right? So after that, they will be released out to the outside through the stomata. Because stomata is a pore which they can allow the gaseous exchange. Also, they can allow the release of the water molecule from this stomata. Okay, so that's all for the xylem. And then for the xylem, another thing that you should know is once the water enter into the xylem vessel, right? So actually there's a force. The force we call as the cohesion. I'm not sure you heard this before or not. Cohesion. What this cohesion means? Because that when the water molecule they enter the xylem vessel, so at the same time there will be another water molecule also found in the xylem vessel, right? Like this. So they will form the attractions between the water molecule. So cohesion means that attractions, force or attractions between the water molecule. So this is known as cohesion. So the water molecule, they will combine together to form a larger water molecule. So until that, if there's another water molecule on their upper layer, so they will be stick to each other. Because water molecule, they tend to stick to each other. Another one is adhesions. What is meant by adhesion? Adhesion is a kind of force. So actually, these two things is a force. So this adhesions is referred that the water is stick to the wall of xylem vessel. Water molecule adhere to the wall of the xylem vessel. So those are the factors they will cause the water able to move outwards against the gravitational force. Okay, see that I will move outwards. And then secondly, that why the water is able to move outward is because that the water, once they enter into the leaf, into the leaf structure, they will get into mesophyll cell, and then they will evaporate, become the water vapor. So there will be continuous evaporation happen. So there will be loss of the water vapor from the stomata. So that's why your plants is losing the water in form of water vapor. So they need to replace the water. So how they replace the water is they need to continuously absorb the water from the roots. So this will create a term we know as they will create a condition known as the transpirational pool. This one. Okay, means that the movement of water upwards, this is called as a transpirational pool. So what is the importance of the transpirations? You can just imagine in human, we need to always drink the water, right? We need to have the water intact. If we don't drink the water, we'll be dehydrated. Okay, our body cell also will be dehydrated, losing large amount of water. So this is not good to our body. But in the plant, they don't purposely drink the water like humans, but plants have their own way to replace the loss of water. So their way is they will do this transpiration. So transpiration is just like drinking water in the plant. Okay, the plant drink the water in the ways of the transpiration. So the importance of transpiration is they will always help to transport the mineral ions. So they will always provide the water. So because that the plant need to continuously absorb the water to keep their whole plant cell become turgid in order to support the structure of the plant. Turgid. Do you know what I mean by turgid cell? A turgid cell refers to the plant cell with a very large centralized vacuole which is fully expanded. I think you see before. This is an example of turgid cell. This is a plant cell wall, and then this is a nucleus, and there's a very, very large vacuole. See, this is a vacuole. So inside the vacuole, they contain a lot of cell set. So until they absorb a lot of water, because whenever the plant cell, they absorb the water are always stored in the vacuole. The water, mineral ions, and other kind of nutrients, they will store in the vacuole. So this is turgid cell. Because when the vacuole expands, they will pull against the cell wall. So this will create a Turgot pressure. Turgot pressure. This is the second important point. So another one is they help to provide water for the photosynthesis. I'm not sure you still remember about the photosynthesis equations. The equation of photosynthesis is they will require what? They require the water, right? And the carbon dioxide. And also together with light and the chlorophyll. Chlorophyll, not chloroplast, yeah. So they will convert to produce a glucose, CH3CHO6, and they will release oxygen. So they require water to perform photosynthesis. Then last is they help to keep the leaf cool down. So because that the conversion of water become water vapors during evaporation stage is they will help to absorb some of the heat energy and release the heat out. Okay, so once it leaves the cell and enter the airspace, they require the heat energy. So the using out of the heat energy, they will convert the water into the water vapors, help to cool the plant down. So this transpiration, they're able to help to cool the plant down if the weather is so hot. So it's just very similar in the humans. Humans, how we able to cool down ourselves? At the how we able to cool down ourselves? We will do sweating, right? Sweating. When you feel very hot, you will sweat a lot. So this is a way of your body help to cool you down. So because sweating also involved in the evaporation of the water, right? So this evaporation of water, they will able to absorb some heat energy. So this will able to reduce the temperature of our body. Okay, so that's all. So you should remember about the importance. The purpose of the transpiration is they help to carry those functions. Okay, so how does the transpiration occur is it will happens when there's an evaporation of the water from the surface of the mesophil cell. So the intercontinent airspace, because the evaporation that happens within the airspace between the cell and the stomata will create a very, very large surface area. So the evaporation of water can happen when the stomata are open. So during a very hot, during hot season, the stomata of the plant, they will open, right? You can imagine that this is a very hot season. So the stomata of plant is found at the lower epidermis of the leaf. So they will open like this. They will open. But this is not really good for the plant, because if the stomata continuously open without closing, what will happen? There will be continuously evaporation of water, right? So this will cause the plants to lose large amount of water. So they need to continuously pull away the water from the soil water and get into their plant cell. So if the weather is too hot, or the weather become not favorable for the plants to open their stomata, so actually what they do is they will shut down their stomata, close. If they close their stomata, there will be no evaporation of water happen again. Okay, so during exam, you should write how transpiration stream created. See, you are required the help from the water molecule during the cohesion process, and also water are moved through the xylem vessel in a continuous transpirational stream from the roots to the leaf by the stem. See, so this is how the water molecule able to move from the roots to the stem until they get into the leaf. So during transpiration, it will create a pulling force or tension. So it causes the water in the xylem vessel get into the leaf. Okay, so if the rate of transpiration increase, the water molecule are pull up the xylem quicker. This means what? This means that some factor, they will trigger the transpiration rate of the plants increase. For example, if you increase the temperature. If you want to increase the transpiration rate, what we do? Increase the transpiration rate. Transpiration rate. You need to increase the surrounding temperature. Okay, then you reduce the humidity. Because increasing temperature will directly reduce humidity, right? And also you increase the wind speed. So those methods will help to increase the transpiration rate. Okay, so this is the image that you should print in your mind. Okay, you can see that this is how the water transport. So actually this image is very good image because they show you about how transpiration happens. So you can say initially the water, they will get into the root hair cell, right? And then they will get into the root cortex, see, root cortex, and then get into the xylem. So now they already entered xylem. So this is the xylem. This tube is the xylem vessel. So once the water get to xylems, they need to, they will be moving outwards due to the cohesions. Okay, due to the cohesion force help to move the water upwards. So they will get into the stem until they reach the leaf, because leaf also need to contain the xylem, right? So the water, they will, from the xylem, they will enter into the mesophyll cell. See, so once the water enter into mesophyll cell, what will happen is the water will be continuously flowing out like this, right? So you can imagine that this is for example, this is a cell A and cell B. Imagine this is we call it as a cell A. Okay, cell A. Then this is we call as the cell B, which is just adjacent to the cell A. So initially the water, they will get into cell B and then they will enter into cell A, right? And then they will move forwards. So when the water get into the cell B will become high water potential, right? As compared to the cell A. So high water potential in the cell B, they will trigger the water to move further to the cell A, because cell B has higher water potential, cell A has a lower water potential. So the water will get into cell A. Then now, the cell A, they will become a very high water potential, right? Compared to that adjacent cell. For example, now the cell A, they get the water, right? So if compared to this one, this is cell C. Cell C has a lower water potential, right? So that's why the water able to diffuse again from A to the C. Because the water always move in these directions. From the high water potential, they will always move to the low water potential. So at the end, they will enter the airspace. So this is where the evaporation will happen, which is the water will change in their liquid state, become the gaseous stage, and then they will lose in form of water vapor through the stoma. So this process, which is the losing of the water vapor through the stoma, is happened by the diffusion. Loss of the water vapors through the stoma is by the diffusion. It's a simple diffusion. Okay, so that's a story about water transport. Okay, so so now you already know that the water is very important to a plant because the plant cannot survive without water. If there's loss of water from the plant, what will happen? The plant will wilting. They will have this condition known as wilting. Okay, it means that if there too many water evaporate from the leaf of the plants, then it's available in the soil to move in the roots by the osmosis, means that more water loss from the plant compared to the water gained by the plant. Wilting will happen because all the plant cells, they are lacking of water. So once they don't get enough water, so their plant cell will be in this way. This is in the wilting plant cell. What will happen is the plant cell, they still remain in their rectangular shape because the cell is very rigid. It's very rigid. They will not change in their shape even though they lose water. But what happens is vacuole will lose the water. So they will be reduced in size. Very small. See, now they become very small. So this is the nucleus. This is vacuole. See, vacuole become very small. So what will happen is the cell membrane, they will pull away from the cell wall like this. See, so this is called as the flaccid plant cell. FLACCID. This is called flaccid plant cell because they don't have water inside the vacuole. So they will be losing their sugar pressure. So this is how the plant able to collapse. So the importance of water to the plant actually is the water help to support the plant to stand upright in this way. See, this plant will be standing upright because that their vacuole inside the plant cell is very turgid, full of water. So this is required as a wilting plant because the plant cell becomes flaccid already. Okay, see, the factor is when you increase the temperature, you are increasing the transpirations. And then you decrease the humidity, you're able to increase the transpiration. Okay, then this is not really important, but this is some experiments they will be asked in the exam. They asking about relationship of the temperature and humidity, how they how they will affect the transpiration rate. So you just remember about this statement. Temperature increase because temperature is always related to the kinetic energy of the molecule, of the water molecule. So when you increase the temperature, you actually increase the kinetic energy of the water molecule, right? So the water molecule, they will be vibrate faster. So when they vibrate faster, what will happen is they'll be losing more. More water will be evaporate, become water vapors. Because they move faster, so they will evaporate more easily. So temperature will increase the transpiration rate. So this means that the transpiration rate is very high in the very hot season. Okay, hot weather will increase the transpiration rate. Then the humidity is in the very humid environments. What is meant by humidity? Humidity is referred to the within the air, how many water vapors are found inside the air. It means that the air hold how many water? Air hold how much of water? How much of water are contained inside the air? So in the humid environments, air is almost saturated with the water vapor. If you have very high humidity, means that inside the air there's a lot of water molecule. A lot of water vapor. Means the air is full with the water vapor in the very high humidity air. So this means that this will reduce the concentrations. So the rate of evaporation is very low. It's very slow. Okay, then now we'll talk about translocations. Translocation is only happen in the phloem. This one, phloem. So phloem, let's see about the structure of the phloem. So you can see this is a phloem. This is the phloem. So the phloem is different from the xylem because that phloem is a living cell. If compared to the xylem, phloem is a living cell. So what is a feature of the phloem is? It's a living cell. Living cell with the cytoplasm. And also, the cytoplasm of the phloem actually help them to connect from the one phloem cell to another section of phloem cell. And as you can see that the phloem, they contain the end plate, right? This one. This is we call it a seal plate. Seal plate. Seal means what? Seal means filter. Filter. Means that this seal plate with a, you can see that with some hole on the surface of the seal plate, they help to filter the substance. So they contain the end wall. So, and also they are living cell, so they are actually connected to the companion cell. This is the companion cell. This companion cell are always found adjacent beside to the phloem. Why? Because it's the companion cell. What they do is they contain a very high density of the mitochondria. They contain a very high density of the mitochondria. So what is the mitochondria functions? The mitochondria function is they will carry out what? They will carry out the aerobic respiration. Carry out the aerobic respiration. What they do is they will release energy. Why they need to release energy? They need to release energy is because that they need to provide energy for the active transport. Then this is a source. This is a source of plant. Source of a plant. Here. Okay, this is source of plant. This is a leaf part. So you can see that you can see that this is the leaf part of plants. They do have what? This structure we call as the chloroplast. They do have chloroplast. So they're able to produce glucose first. So the glucose, after they are produced in the leaf, they will be become the sucrose. So the sucrose will be actively transported from the source and enter into the phloem of the seal tube. So they're able to do the translocations. So in the seal tube cell, which is inside the phloem, the translocation happen. Okay, so what is meant by translocation? Translocation means what? Is the transport of the sucrose and amino acid in the phloem from the region of productions to the storage or use. So the region of production is referred to the source. Storage or use is referred to the sink. So they will be transporting their substance from the source and then they will get into the sink. Enter into the sink. So usually the sink will be referred to the something like storage tubule or the roots of the plant. Okay, so I think that's all. So you can see that the cell, they have the ending, they have the end wall, and they contain the holes into the, in the seal plate. This one, seal plate. So to allow the easy flow of the substance from one cell to the next. So you can, another thing is different from the xylem is in the translocations, they are actually transport their nutrients in two ways. They can transport from up to down and then from down to up, like this. Oh, sorry, like this. So it's two-way transport. Okay, so transport in the phloem, they get into many, many different directions depending on the stage of development of plants. Okay, but the dissolved food is always from source to the sink. That's all. So during the winter, where a lot of plants, they don't have to live, right? So they will use the nutrients from the storage organs to other part of plants to continue carry out the respiration. Because in the winter, I'm not sure, Adam Suya, do you been through the winter before, winter season? During the winter time, they will be lacking of the sunlight. So usually the plant, they will not do photosynthesis at sunlight because during the winter time, they don't have sunlight at all. So a lot of plants, they don't have leaf also. So during the winter, their leaf actually will be shedding off. They start shedding off in the autumns, and then when the winter, there will be no more leaf. Okay, but the plant is still survive. Okay, it's not being die yet. They are still survive. So how they survive is now they don't have the source of the they don't have a leaf become the source of production of glucose. It's fine, but they still have their zinc, right? So previously they already saw a lot of nutrients inside their zinc. So now the zinc, which they contain the sucrose and amino acids. See, the storage organs, which is the roots, during the springtime or the winter time. So now it is their turn become the source. Because the source, because their roots or their storage organ, they store a lot of nutrients. So now, since the leaf, they stop producing the sugar, they stop producing the glucose, right? So now they will use the roots become the source of the glucose. Okay, so the source and also many growing area of the plant, now they will become the sink. Okay, so this means that the roots, they will become the source. So the source, now they will provide the organs to the other growing area of the plants. For example, like maybe the stem part, which is they will grow into another new shoot. So after the plant has grown, the leaf will start to perform the photosynthesis again, because during the summer, there will be a very abundant of the sunlight, right? So they will be growing a lot of leaf also. So the photosynthesis happen again. So now they will go back to their normal stage, which is they will start producing a very large quantity of the sugars. So now the leaf will become the source again. The roots will go back, become the sink. So this is the exam they will ask for this aspect. Okay, so you should know that during the winter time, now the sink, which is in the roots or in the storage organ, now they become the source. So they will provide the nutrients to the other growing part of the plants to allow the plant continue to survive. Because as a plant need to survive, even though they don't have photosynthesis, but they will still survive, right? So they will carry out what? They will carry out the respirations. Respiration is a process which is they will involve in the glucose, because they need to break down glucose to release the energy. Okay, they will involve in the breaking down of the glucose released from the storage organs to release energy. Okay, so this picture, they just show you that how the translocation happens. So you can see that in the leaf parts, they will have the photosynthesis, right? So they will produce what? They will produce the glucose. So after that, the glucose, they will convert, become the sucrose. So the translocation, actually what they are transporting is belong to sucrose and amino acid. But whenever the sucrose, they reach the, they reach the zinc part, which is the roots or the storage part of the plant, they will convert, become the starch, and then they will store in form of the starch. Okay, so remember about structure of the phylum is they contain the component cell just like adjacent to the cell tube. And then the phylum, actually the phylum is comprised of two structures. This is for you to know. We talk about phylum. Phylum actually is the tissue. It's a tissue for their level of the cell organizations. So the phylum itself, they do contain what? They do contain the cell tube cell. This one. Secondly is they contain the component cell. Okay, so the cell tube cell is, they are referred to this. This is one cell tube cell. This is another cell tube cell. And this will be another cell tube cell. So you can see that how cell tube cell they're able to connect to each other by the end plate, with the cell plate, Okay, so those are the summary for the xylem and phylum. So please remember about the structure. Okay, so now we see about some past year questions for the chapter 8. I have prepared some past year questions for you. You can have a look on it. The past year questions is this. Hey, where is it? Okay, you may open the past year questions. Here. I have sent you in the WeChat already. The past year questions is with. Sorry, let me find back. Where's the past year question? It's at here. See, chapter 8, plant transport, paper 4 answer. This one. Now you may open the document. This one. Okay, you may open this document. Because of the paper 4 is very important. And most students, they will lose mark when they are doing paper 4 because they don't write a correct answer. Okay, so now we go through about paper 4. I also understand that sometimes you are very busy, right? You might not able have time to do the question one by one. Okay, can you see my screen? I think you can see my screen, right? So far, so good. And then Suyang?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. So now we go through the chapter 8, paper 4. Okay, for your information, my past year for paper 4 is given from 2016 until 2023. Okay, this is for information only. So this is a root hair cell. So you should know the structure of root hair cell. I think we had learned before. And then for this one, okay, see, xylem vessel. Okay, so xylem vessel, if compared to the phylum vessel, is xylem vessel, they have a larger hole, right? See, the xylem vessel, the hole is much more larger than phylum. So the question I like to ask is, how is the structural feature of the xylem vessel and how is related to the water transport? So that's why for the xylem, you should memorize in two aspects. First is their adaptation. Secondly is their functions. So you should relate the adaptation towards their functions. So the feature is same with the adaptations, is the xylem structure. So what you can look from the xylem is they don't contain any end wall, or we call as cross wall. And also they have a lignified wall. Okay, lignified wall means what? The wall is deposited with the lignin, and the wall is very thick. So this will help the xylem able to carry a function, which is they able to transport their water and the mineral iron in a continuous way without any resistance, right? So the water will move very smooth within their lumen, and then they will provide the mechanical support to the plants. This is second function. Okay, so remember that xylem function, first, transport water, mineral iron. Secondly, support the plant. Okay, why the xylem able to support the plant? Because the xylem, they contain the lignin deposit on their cell wall. Lignin is very hard, rigid structure. Okay, just imagine that lignin is just like the woody plant. You had touched on the woody plant before. Wood is very hard because the wood contain the lignin. 就那个很硬很硬的木材。Okay, that's all. And then for this third questions, featured by the dicotyledonous plants. Okay, you should know about the difference between monocotyledons and the dicotyledons. Dicotyledon is the plants related to the woody plants. Woody plant like the durian tree. Yeah. So the dicotyledons is the characteristic is they have two cotyledons. So that means like di means two. They have two cotyledons and they have a very broad leaf, and the leaf with a branching vein, or sometimes they will call as the reticulated vein. Reticulated vein means what? Means the vein is just looking like a spider web. Okay, just like a spider web. And then they have the flower petals with the 4 or 5, and then they are developed from the radicals. So this feature of the dicotyledons. So if in the monocotyledon would be different way. Monocotyledons, the answer is it comprises of the one cotyledons. If monocotyledons, they are one cotyledons, and also they have a very narrow leaf. Okay, narrow leaf. And then they have 3 petals on it, 3 flower petals. And then this, they are showing you about during seed developments, the amino acids are converted into storage proteins and proteins. So the proteins molecule become active when the seed absorb water at the starting of the germinations. So they show the formation of the storage proteins and the proteins in the developing seeds and the action of proteins during the germination. So what proteins will do? So the proteins will help to break down the proteins, right? Become the amino acids. So define the gene. Okay, this gene you will learn on later in chapter 70. But you should know about the different in structures between the storage proteins and the proteins. What is the difference? Storage protein is a protein also. Then proteins is a kind of enzyme, right? It's an enzyme. Enzyme means it's made from the proteins. So this means that the structure between the storage proteins and the protease enzyme, they are totally different. Because why? Because even though both are the proteins, but they are comprised of different sequence of the amino acids. Different sequence of amino acids. So they will produce the different polypeptide change. And then each of polypeptide change, they will fall into the different shape or structure of the proteins. Okay, I think you still remember about the last time I had told you that how the proteins is produced from the DNA. So initially is the DNA nucleotide base, this one. So they will decide about the amino acids, what kind of amino acid they will produce, right? Amino acid sequence. So this is happened in the ribosome. So because in the ribosome, they will start to produce the proteins product, which is a polypeptide change. So after that, they will produce a polypeptide change. So, and then they will form what? They will form different protein structure. Or we call it as different protein shape. So this different protein structure, they will do what? They will produce, they will have different functions, different protein functions. So please remember that when we talk about proteins, it's very important we talk about the structure, because the structure of proteins will determine their functions. Okay, that's all. And then this will talk about the enzyme activity, because during the seed germination process in the seed, actually it's a kind of the enzyme catalyzed reactions. Okay, seed germination process is a enzyme catalyzed reactions. So since it's enzyme, so that means that the enzyme, they will be affected by other factors like the temperature also, substrate, or the type of enzyme being used. So this will be answered. And then, okay, this question like to coming out in the exam. This one. Describe the effect of increasing pH on the activity of the proteins in the in the seed. Okay, in the seed. So what will happen is you just need to describe, since the question asks you to describe the graph, they actually asking you to describe the trend of the graph. Trend of the graph. The trend of graph means that the graph is increasing or decreasing, remain constant, or they peak at their highest point. So this is the way that you should write the answer. You can see that the pH is actually they are increased from 2.5 because from 2.5 they increase rapidly, right? Until they reach a peak on 4, pH 7, on the pH 4. So they'll peak at the pH 4 and then they will decrease. After that, they will decrease when they from the pH 4.0 to the 6.0. So they will decrease. So until when they reach the pH 6.5, there will be no more enzyme activity recorded. So you will get about the mark. You just need to describe the trend only. So now they ask you to explain. Okay, explain the activity at the pH 4 and pH 7 is during pH 4. pH 4, you have a record with the highest rate of enzyme reaction because what? Because pH 4 is the optimum pH. So since it's the optimum pH, means that at the pH 4, there will be the highest number of the enzyme substrate complex form. Okay, because that the shape of the active site enzyme is complementary to the substrate at the pH 4. But in the pH 7, which is around here, see, the enzyme activity becomes 0 already. Become 0 means that there will be no more enzyme activity happen again. So this means what? This means that pH 7, the enzyme is fully denatured in their structure. So when the structure is being denatured, it means that the substrate unable to bind to the active site or enzyme. So there will be no more activity. So this is the way that you should write. Okay. You may notice the keyword that I wrote. Optimum, denature, enzyme decide change their shape or structure. Complementary. This one. More enzyme substrate complex form at the optimal pH. And then more collisions between enzyme substrate. So this is the keyword that I need to check. And then the mark will be given if you write those keywords. Because the keywords are included in those marking scheme of the IGCSE biology. Okay, then now we talk about the number 5. Okay, number 5. Actually, they are showing the phylum set in the plants. So there's an insect. This is called as aphid. Aphid is a kind of insect. So this insect we call as a suckling insect because they will just suck the phylum fluid in. From the plant. Why? Because the phylum fluid. The phylum sac. Is very sweet. So the insect they like to suck it. Okay. So state the name of the foods the aphid could suck out of phylum tissue. So inside the phylum tissue, they do contain these two nutrients, sucrose and amino acids. And then they ask you to explain the role of the phylum in the plant transport with the source and the sink. Okay, so you should include this source and sink in your answer. So plant transport in the phylum we call as the translocation because they are involved in the moving of the sucrose and the amino acids in the two directional movements. Okay, so actually they are moving the foods from the source, which is they produce, to the sink, which they will be used the nutrients. So the sucrose are produced at the source in the leaf. And then where is the sink? Sink is referred to the storage of the nutrients and the region of the respiration because in the sink is they will use up the nutrient molecule stored. So they use up for the respiration. Okay, and then some organ they can be both source and sink at a different time. For example, initially that during the summertime or during the season with a lot of with an abundance of the sunlight, the roots will become the sink, right? But however, when the season change become the winter, the roots will become the source because they will provide the nutrients to other growing part of plant. Okay, and then for this one, okay, see, how xylem adapt for their functions. So you should write about the function first, and then you write about adaptations. Or you can write adaptation first, and then relate to the function. It's okay. Both of the answer is okay, but you just need to include both points, which is the function and the adaptations. So for the function, you already know that transport water mineral, transport the water and the mineral ions, and also to reduce the resistance to the water flow. So how they're able to reduce resistance is because that they don't have cytoplasm found within the cell. Okay, and also there's no end wall connected between the xylem vessel. And they have a wall thickened by the lignin, so this will provide them with the structural support for the plant and prevent them from the collapse. And also, the xylem, another point for xylem is, sorry, I forget to tell you, the xylem point is this, I draw to you for the xylem. Xylem actually, they contain the pits. Do you know what is pits? Pits is a structure they are found only in the xylem only. Let me show you the pits. Okay. PITS pits. This one. This is the pits. I think they didn't show this in your notes, but you should write it down. Okay. For the xylem, where's the xylem? Xylem is at here. Yeah, here is the xylem. Okay. This xylem, actually, they do contain hole here. This is we call as pits, which is the hole, a small hole found on the xylem vessel wall. So what does these pits do? So these pits, when they help to transport up the water, okay, because the xylem, they are always connected to another xylem, right? So this will be another xylem. So they are lignin. This is the xylem wall. Okay, also we are lignin. So there's two xylem vessels here. So this xylem, also they do contain the pits. So whenever they have a pit, which is a small hole on the xylem vessel wall, so they can allow the water to move sideways. Okay, so we call it sideways movement of the water. Pits for the sideways. Means the water able to move to adjacent xylem vessel. Sideways movement of water. Okay, so very easy. If you study the past year paper, then you should know what kind of keyword that you should include in your answer. So you can see that there are the pits. Do I share the screen? I think I share the screen, right? Oh, I think I share the screen. There are pits in the wall for the water movements between the xylem vessel. Between means that the adjacent xylem vessel. So this is xylem vessel again. And then for this one, this one, how you able to describe it? The mechanism that is responsible for the movement of water in the xylem vessel. They ask you to explain. How many marks they give you? 4 marks. So whenever they give you the question with 4 marks, 5 marks, 6 marks, maximum they will only give you 6 marks. So you should describe your answer in a very detailed way in order to get marks. So you need to write the process, how the water able to diffuse from the roots to the stem until they reach the leaf. So you can see that first you should write about the evaporation of the water from the cell wall in the mesophyll. Okay, because the water evaporate first, so they will cause the water diffuse through the stomata. Water vapor, see, water vapor, because evaporation of water, they will convert, become the water vapors. So the water vapor, they're able to loss to the outside through the stomata. So this process will cause the reduced water potential at the top of the miscible cell if they compare to the adjacent miscible cell, which they stay in the lower level. Okay, because on the top part, they will be always losing water, right? Losing water in form of water vapor. So they will become low water potential already. So this will cause the adjacent miscible cell, which is stay lower than them, become high water potential. So this will cause the water moving upwards. See, moving outwards, the keyword, moving outwards. So this will provide the continuous column of water in the xylem. Okay, so you write about the evaporation, you write about the miscible cell, how they reduce their water potential, and then you write about cohesion. See, cohesion are the force of attractions between the water molecule. So the water molecule, they will stick together when they are moved along the xylem vessel. Okay, so because this evaporation of water from the leaf, they will pull the water and mineral ions from the roots through the xylem. Yeah. So means that if the water continuously lost from the stomata during evaporations, this will cause the water need to be replaced, right? So when they replace, they will always pull the water mineral ions from the roots through the cell. Through the xylem. So this we call as a transpirational pull. So this is a keyword. So the water will enter the xylem by the osmosis down the gradient. So the xylem vessel not only transport water, but they can help to support because they do contain the lignin. And then for this one, see, the rate of transpiration is affected by the several factors, including the temperature and the humidity of air. So how you're able to explain it? So now they want you to explain about how temperature able to affect the rate of transpiration. So your answer should be, when you increase the temperature, you are increasing the kinetic energy. See, you use the same keyword also when you answer about the enzyme question, because the enzyme, they also like to ask how increasing the temperature able to affect the enzyme activity, right? So when you increase temperature, you increase the kinetic energy, you actually increase the rate of the transpiration also. So it will cause more water evaporate from the leaf happens. So this will increase the rate of diffusion. See, more evaporation, it will increase the rate of diffusion of water vapor from the leaf through the stomata. So the stomata pore become wider because the stomata pore will always open, right? Opens, allow the water vapor to release out. So once the stomata cell opens, so means that the gut cell, they will become turgid. Because the turgid gut cell can allow the opening of the stomata. So if the gut cell becomes flaccid, means the stomata pore will close. Okay, remember this. If the gut cell becomes flaccid, means the stomata pore will close. Okay, so this is how the exam they will ask you to define what is the area Y. So what is area Y? Area Y is the plant cell, okay, the plant cell which they do contain the vacuole. Because that explain how the cell in the area Y able to support the stem, so they're able to stay upright. See, because that the area Y, which they contain plant cell, they contain vacuole. So the water always move into vacuole from high to low water potential by osmosis. So the vacuole help to absorb the water. So they will increase in size and they will push against the cell wall, create a sugar pressure. So this is how a plant cell able to become turgid. Okay, so the cell wall is rigid and it will prevent the plant cell from rupture. This means that even though the plant cell, they contain the excessive amount of water, but they will not rupture because the cell wall, due to the presence of cell wall, because cell wall is very rigid and very hard. So this will prevent the plant cell become bursting. Right? It's not like animal cell. In animal cell, like the red blood cell, okay, white blood cell, our red blood cell, when we get excess water within the animal cell they will burst. Because the animal cell, they only have the cell membrane. They don't have the cell wall. Cell membrane is very fragile as compared to the cell wall. And then this one, you should label where is the xylem. Okay, you should label where is the xylem. Do you know Where do you label the xylem? Label the xylem in the particle bundle with the letter X. So we can label at here. Where is the xylem? Xylem is at here. See? You can see a very large hole, right? You can see my cursor. This one. Very large hole. This is this. It's labeled here. See? Here is the xylem. Okay. See, they're very large hole, larger hole size as compared to phloem. Where's phloem? Phloem is at here. Phloem is at here. Oh. Then here's a phloem. Okay, and then for the plants parts, okay, this is, I mean, you will learn more about plant structure in next few chapter. This is for you to have a look. And then for this one, I want you to know that how to answer about this question. See, this one, transport sucrose in the plant is translocation. And then this one, in addition to the sucrose, amino acid also transport in the plant. So name the mineral ion that become part of the amino acids. So the answer is nitrate ion. Why? Because nitrate ions, they become the source of the amino acids. Amino acids, they need nitrogen, right? They need the nitrogen. So nitrate ion, they will supply the nitrogen source to the amino acid. So if there's no nitrate ions, there will be no more amino acid because amino acid require the nitrogens in their structure. Okay, and then for this one, this is 2021. So they give you the conditions with set A and set B. You can see that set A, they cover the leaf with the plastic bag, a transparent bag. Okay, then tell me, Ethan Suyang, you tell me, set A and set B, which set has the higher transpiration rate? You think it's set A or set B? Higher transpiration rate. Have a guess? Ethan Suyang, have a guess? The answer is, I think maybe you have your answer in your mind, but you don't dare to speak. It's okay. Set A. Okay, this one. That is set B. Set B will be a higher transpiration rate compared to set A. Why? Because set A is covered with a plastic bag. See, set A is covered with a plastic bag. So when they cover with plastic bag, there will be, there will be less contact to the sunlight. Okay, and then if they are, because they are covered with plastic bag, right? So inside the plastic bag, there has a higher humidity. Okay, so higher humidity found in the set A, which is the cover with the transparent bag, they will reduce the transpiration rate. So at the end, when you try to compare to the mass between set A and set B, we found that the set B have a lighter mass compared to the set A. Okay, because at set A, which found in the bag, they will lose less mass compared to the set B because they lost lesser amount of water because they has lower rate of transpiration if they are covered inside the plastic bag. Okay, because why? Because plastic bag, they will prevent the leaf from direct contact to the sunlight. So explain how the transpiration occur in the leaf shown because that water evaporate from the dissolved cell, enter into airspace. So, and then the water vapor diffuse through the stomata out of leaf. Okay, you can also how I write my answer. Initially, the water, right? Initially is water. So after water undergo the evaporations in the airspace, they will produce a water vapor. So this is the time that water vapor, they will be losing out from the leaf through the stomata. So means that if the water in the airspace is still water, so after they undergo evaporation, they become water vapors. Okay, that's all. That's all for the, okay. That's all for the question. I think it's enough for you to know about the answering question for the paper 4. And then this one, the chapter 8 important notes paper 4, this is for you to have a look, okay? You can go back, spend some time to look about what kind of keyword that you should write for your answer. It's just very similar to what I showed you just now. Okay, see, feature and addition of silence, they enable them to conduct water. So I think this one you should memorize. I'm not asking you to memorize, but you should take note. This is very common exam. Because the xylem, they don't have end wall, right? So they can allow water to flow very easily. And they have very lignified wall, means it's very strong. So they can support the plant. And then there's pits. Pits, they can allow the lateral transport water, which is just like I call as a sideway movement of water. It's just very similar. And they don't have cytoplasm. It's very hollow. Hollow means that inside the content is totally empty. So this will reduce the resistance to the water flow. Okay, so actually this chapter is very, very simple chapter. I hope it doesn't feel boring for you. Okay, and then see this one. This one we also have a look. Okay, you can see this is a xylem and phloem in the roots, leaf, and stem. So you should remember about their orientations. Okay, so we finished about chapter 8. And then now we can move into the chapter 9, which is the very interesting part, talking about the human transport. Okay, we still have some few minutes, okay? I will slightly go through with you. Human transport. Okay, at this way, you can open your note about the human transport. Okay, if you're ready, let me know. Human transport. Another interesting topic. Okay, are you ready? Ready, yeah? So in this topic, what we learn? We learn about the circulations, and then we learn about our hearts, how our hearts pump the blood, how they transport the blood from the hearts to the all part of the body, and then how the hearts, work. And then if the problem happen toward the hearts, maybe it's like if your heart gets some disease, and then what kind of blood vessel? Okay, there's 3 types of blood vessel found in your body. You can write it down, which is artery, artery, 动脉, artery. And then there will be a smaller form of artery, we call as an arteriole. These 2 blood vessels transport oxygenated blood. Okay? Then we talk about vein. And then there's a smaller version of vein we call as a venule. So they transport deoxygenated blood. And then now we talk about the blood capillary. Blood capillary, they don't really contain oxygenated blood or deoxygenated blood. But the function of blood capillary is they will close contact with body cell. Okay, why? Because they need to exchange material with the body cell. Okay, for the circulatory system, we should know about type of the circulatory system. For example, we have the single circulatory system. See this one, single circulatory system, and we have the double circulatory system. In human or the mammals, which is the most complex form of organism, they will belong to the double circulatory system. So we are belong to this one. We have the double circulatory system. So in the simplest form of organism, like in fish, they only have the single circulatory system. So actually, what's different between them? Let me have a look. Okay, for the fish, they have 2 chamber hearts, just a very simple heart, only two chamber only, and the single circulations. So the single circulation means what? That means that for every 1 circuit of the body, the blood passes through the heart once time only. See, the blood passes through the heart once time. So you can see in this way. Okay, sorry. Okay. You can see, this is the heart of the fish. So whenever they want to transport the blood, they transport in form of the gill capillary. So the blood will transport in this way, and then they will contact with the body cell. Here, contact the body cell. So from the body cell there, the body cell, they will get the oxygen. They will get oxygen from the gill capillary. And then they will release carbon dioxide to the capillary. So once the blood pass through the body cell, they will get the carbon dioxide, right? So now the blood, you can see the blood now in the blue color form. The blue color form means that they contain a very rich amount of the carbon dioxide. So the bloods which contain a very rich amount of carbon dioxide, they will enter into the heart. They will enter into the heart. Okay, so the hearts, they will pump the deoxygenated blood into the gill capillary. So from the gill capillary, they are lining on, they are located on the gill filaments. I think you have a look on the gill filament of the fish before, right? The gill filaments, on there, there's a lot of blood vessel, a lot of gill capillary. So whenever the fish, they take in the water, right? They take in the water. H2O is water. Fish open their mouth. They take in the water. Inside the water, they contain what? They contain the dissolved oxygen. Because the fish, they don't directly inspire, they don't directly intake the oxygen from the air. They are actually intake oxygen from the water. So inside the water, they do contain the dissolved oxygen. Means the oxygen already dissolved inside the water. So the water contain dissolved oxygen, they will get into the mouth of the fish. And then they will get into the gill capillary. So the gill capillary, they're able to take away from the oxygen. See, they take the oxygen away. So they will cause the blood become, from the deoxygenated blood, become oxygenated blood again. So the deoxygenated blood also, they will try to release away the carbon dioxide. So whenever the fish, they are having the respirations, actually they open their mouth. They open their mouth to allow the water enters into their mouth cavity and get into their gill cavity. And also you can imagine, you can also that their gill also, they open, right? The gill, they also open. So when the gill open, some water will flow out. So the water that flow out is actually belong to the deoxygenated blood, okay, which is they contain the carbon dioxide. So this is the way that the fish, they will get the oxygen from the water, and then they'll open their gills to allow the water flow out, the unwanted water flow out. So now the unwanted water, they contain a lot of carbon dioxide, so they will be released out. Okay, so this is the way that the gill capillary able to convert their deoxygenated blood back to become the oxygenated blood. So you can see that this is the one circuit only, and the blood pass through the hearts only one time. So this is single circulation happen. See? So during the gill circulation, they will have the exchange of the material, which is they will get, they will take in the oxygen and they will release the carbon dioxide. So how about in the double circulations, which is in the human or in some animal? This means that for every one circuit of body, the blood pass through the hearts two times. So you can imagine that in our circulations, we actually have two types of circulation. One we call as a systemic circulation, this one, systemic circulation. Another one we call as a pulmonary circulation. See, these two types of circulation pass through the hearts two times. Okay, so you can imagine that it's like this way. Whenever you do the respiration, you are inhaling the oxygen, right? Maybe I write down better. Whenever you inhale the oxygen, you inhale the oxygen, inhale the oxygen. So the oxygen, they will get into your lung, right? They will enter into the lung. At the end, they will enter into the alveolus. This one, alveolus. Enter into the alveolus of the lung. So the alveolus is stay very close toward the blood capillary. So this stage is happened in this way. This stage, which is they have the alveolus connected to the blood capillary. So initially, the blood capillary, they contain what? They contain the deoxygenated blood. So this is the site which they have the deoxygenated blood here. So the deoxygenated blood, which they carry the red blood cell, they have the red blood cell here. So the red blood cell, initially, they carry the deoxygenated blood, which is here. Okay, imagine that this is the deoxygenated blood just pump out from the hearts. Now they get into the lung. Okay, so the red blood cell, they contain the carbon dioxide. Once they pass through the alveolus, they will release carbon dioxide to the alveolus. Initially from here, they will release carbon dioxide to the alveolus. And then after they unload the carbon dioxide, they become empty, right? So the alveolus, they contain what? They contain the oxygens. And then they contain a very high pressure of the oxygens within the alveolus. Because alveolus, they during inhalation, you actually inhale the oxygen, right? So the oxygen, they're able to get into the red blood cell because now red blood cell already empty already. So the red blood cell, they will carry the oxygen. So imagine that the red blood cell, they carry the oxygens. So it's just acting like vehicle. They help to transport the oxygen from the lung part. So this is still in the lung part. This is in the lung part. And then now they will travel. The red blood cell will travel from the lungs and they will get into the hearts. They will get into the hearts. So in the hearts, they are contained in the four chamber, right? Left side and the right side. This is the right side. This is the left side. We have the left atrium and the left ventricle. So once the red blood cell, they're able to inject the oxygens from the alveolus, so they will become oxygenated blood, right? Now it's become the oxygenated blood. Oxygenated blood. Okay, so this oxygenated blood, they will go in this way here. See, this pathway. So they will travel by this blood vessel we call as a pulmonary vein. So the pulmonary vein is connected to the, we call as the left atrium of the heart, LA. LA refer to the left atrium of the heart, okay? Like this. So your red blood cell, which they carry the oxygen, they will enter into left atrium of the heart. And then the hearts, which is the left side of the heart, now they receive the oxygenated blood. So from the left atrium, they will pump to the left ventricle. They pump to left ventricle. Okay, so from the left ventricle, they have the aorta, right? A very large blood vessel known as the aorta. This is the aorta. Okay, aorta is the largest blood vessel in your body. Because aorta, the function is to what? Aorta, the function is they want to aorta. This one. This is aorta, right? Aorta, they help to transport the blood, oxygenated blood from the heart to all part of body. This is how the aorta works. See, from the heart, and then they will get to other body cells. Okay, so you can see that we have two kinds of circulation. One is systemic circulation. Systemic circulation is only involved in the heart and the body tissue. And we have the pulmonary circulation. Pulmonary circulation, the pulmonary in the medical term known as the lung. Okay, so you have that something like pulmonary disease. Okay, 肺炎, pulmonary disease. So pulmonary circulation is only involved in the heart to the lung. So these two kind of the circulations, they are separated, and also they are actually very independent. Okay, independent. So they are just help your body able to acquire the oxygen from the lung, and also transport the oxygenated blood to all part of body tissue. Then after that, the body tissue, they will do the respiration. Okay, they will do respiration. They will do what? They will do aerobic respiration. Most of the body cell will do aerobic respiration. So they will release carbon dioxide, right? They release carbon dioxide as a byproduct. So those carbon dioxide will diffuse back from the body cell, enter into the blood capillary, and then they will get into the vein. This is the vein. This is the artery. Okay, so the vein will help to carry the deoxygenated blood back into the heart. Okay, back into the heart. They will enter into the initially, maybe okay, they will enter into the right atrium of heart. Okay, and then they will get into the left ventricle. Oh, sorry, right ventricle. Right ventricle, this one. So after that, the right ventricle, they also contain the blood vessel attached to it. This blood vessel we call as what? Maybe okay, I wrote it this way. Okay, see, this blood vessel connecting between the right ventricles to the lung. So this vessel we call as the pulmonary artery. This is pulmonary artery. See, pulmonary artery, because they help to connect from the right ventricles, which is from the heart to the lung, So the pulmonary artery, they will help to transport the deoxygenated blood from the heart get into the lung. So the lung, they will having their respiration. It's not respiration, it's they will do the inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation means that they will convert the deoxygenated blood to become the oxygenated blood again. So the oxygenated blood, they will pump back to the heart by the pulmonary vein, enter into the left atrium of heart. So this is the whole story. Okay, sorry a bit late for today. I think we can continue on the next week. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the class today. Do you have any question to ask me, Eden and Suyang? I'm looking forward to the question. So far, so good. Are you still there? Okay. Okay, so see you in next class. Okay, see you in next class. Okay, later I'll give you some homework. Okay, bye. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.